David Haye has done some interviews on Sky in the past few days. He is still calling for this rematch with Tony Bellew, and he's even talked about the possibility of a trilogy with Tony Bellew. He says he's never had a nemesis, a guy who would be the Nigel Benn to his Chris Eubank or vice versa. Actually, Ben and Eubank never had a trilogy, but you know what I'm talking about. The Evander Holyfield to his Riddick Bowe, etc. He said he's never had anybody like that, and maybe Tony Bellew is that guy. He's also said that he's definitely coming back. He's not even contemplating retirement. He says that the injury will take, I think he said he might be back in the ring between 6 to 9 months, which is a fair amount of time. I have my doubts, to be honest with you, about whether David Haye be coming back. And he also interestingly said that the injury occurred in the fight and it wasn't a pre-existing injury. That may be true. I don't know, but it's a pretty freak coincidence if it is true. Regardless of what the case is, he suffered a serious injury in the ring. We all know that. And that may be a reoccurring injury in the future. Tissue injuries don't tend to heal as well as bone injuries. Most people are aware of that. Bones actually, depending on how severe a fracture or break is, bones can actually heal stronger than they were originally. Whereas tissue injuries are never quite the same. You know, when you tear your Achilles or tear a muscle or whatever, it's never quite the same afterwards. So David Haye was a guy who relied heavily on movement in his prime. His movement is seriously compromised now, as we saw from the Tony Bellew fight even before the injury occurred. His foot speed is just not there anymore. And we saw it, if you were paying attention, in his 2 comeback fights prior to that against Mark Demori and Arnold Jurjai. His feet looked a lot slower than we were used to seeing from David Haye. So I'm skeptical about if Haye is going to be successful in his comeback. And perhaps that's why he's targeting Tony Bellew again. Perhaps that's why he's really trying to push this idea of a trilogy, because maybe in his mind he's thinking, you know what, I won't even be able to beat the top guys. So I better make the most out of this Bellew situation. I could probably make a lot of money from it. Maybe he thinks Bellew is a much softer target than those other guys. And Haye's weight as well has to be an issue because he weighs like 224 pounds. Whereas most people would agree that his optimum weight at heavyweight is like 210 pounds. At 224, there's a lot more weight and pressure on those joints of his. And, he's had issues with his knees before. Now he's got an issue with his ankle. You get what I'm saying? So with that extra weight, it needs to come off as far as I'm concerned. But then again, maybe the extra weight is to support the shoulder and the areas of his upper body which were previously injured. So perhaps he's in a catch-22. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think about this, people. Drop your comments in the comment section below. Would you like to see a Haye Bellew trilogy? Do you think Haye can come back successfully? Are there some of you out there who still believe in David Haye, who think that he can capture a version of the heavyweight title? Haye did go on in the interview to say if Bellew doesn't want to fight him in a rematch, that he will try and find another route back to the heavyweight title. Unless he finds a ridiculously easy route, excuse me, kind of like a Shannon Briggs route. I don't mean by fighting Briggs. I mean, Briggs is fighting a kendo for the WBA regular belt. That's an easy route back to a belt, fighting somebody like Fraser Kendo. So unless David Haye finds a route like that, I can't see him winning a heavyweight title. His style was always based on reflexes and athleticism rather than technical boxing. And that doesn't age as well as technical boxing does. And he's a small guy, remember, in the land of the giants. So I don't really hold out much hope for David Haye capturing a version of the heavyweight title. But stranger things have happened. You never know. He does have the power. So we have to bear that in mind. Let me know what you feel in the comment section below. It's Hatman, I'm out.